Alright, let's take a look at the new Espers. We'll take a look at Pindar first. I don't know, am I crazy? Like, isn't this the same person? It looks the exact same, except for like maybe some recolors. But anyways, here's his S1. Attacks one enemy, damage is equal to 6% of HP. And then when ascended, he also increases AP by 20% for the leftmost ally. His passive is when not in the leftmost position, increase all allies HP by 30%, which has 50% of the ability damage taken by the leftmost teammate. And after the Esper or the leftmost teammate takes action, gains 1 stack of cadence, so another cadence mechanic. And at max cadence stacks, the S3 cooldown minus 1 turn. And this is when takes action, so it's not active turns. If you counter attack, if you do pursuits, I think you should gain the cadence stacks. And then the S3 is grants harmonic control, attack up, defense up, and immunity to the leftmost teammate for 2 turns. And also gives that teammate 1 extra turn on a 3 turn cooldown, which can also be reduced further by 1 more turn. So 2 turn cooldown on the S3. And the harmonic control is grants different effects based on the Esper roll. For fighter, each hit from the second onward in a single attack, so it has to be a single attack, deals additional true damage equals to 50% of attack. So basically for Momo in PvP. Not really that good for PvE because true damage cannot crit, so you're not going to do a lot of damage. And then for defenders, when attack deals true damage equals to 200% of defense. So like we use passive. Support is speed plus 10, not really that good. After casting an ability, reduces all abilities cooldown by 1 turn. And then controller, speed plus 10, after casting an ability, casts 1 extra time. It seems like for PvP, you mostly just want to pair him up with Momo, because Momo does a lot of single target attacks. I don't think you want to pair him up with Suizai. Moriyama is also very good because Moriyama has only single hits. But outside of those two, you don't really want to pair him up with other fighters. They need to be single target and they also need to be multi-hit. Because if they're not multi-hit, then this effect is going to be completely useless for that fighter, right? The control buff is also very interesting though. If you run him with Ggez, then Ggez can just spam the S3 like 2 times every single time. His divinate is heals the Esper at the start of their turn, which is equals to 50% of their max HP. What the heck? Captain ability is HP plus 30% for all content. R1 harmonic control grants 10 extra speed to controller and support Espers. Not that crazy. R2 at the start of combat grants harmonic control to the leftmost teammate for 2 turns. And then R4 is if there is an ability on cooldown, speed plus 20. R6 is increases the ability damage share for the leftmost teammate to 90% and reduces the damage share by the caster to 50%. So in PvP, if you want to run him, you need him to be at R6. Because this 90% damage share means that your leftmost teammate is pretty much not going to die. If you pair this up with Momo, Momo is going to be absolutely unkillable. Even Moriyama cannot one-shot Momo at that point. Rival Rune, he is on the wind set, very fast as well, 270, a lot of HP. Here's his base stats for level 70. Not that high speed, but a lot of HP. Alright, let's take a look at the next Esper, the Shimmer one, Maria. The S1 attacks one enemy, damage 40% of her attack and 4% of max HP. Inflicts 1 stack of hypothermia if the target's AP is higher than that of the ally with the lowest HP or lowest AP. Swaps their AP and doesn't work on bosses. And then also grants that ally the Rain's Kiss for 2 turns. Hypothermia is when the carrier is attacked. Each stack gives the attacker 15% chance of inflicting freeze on the target for 1 turn. Triggers only once per turn. Maximum 5 stacks, and each dispelling attempt removes only 1 stack. Ineffective on bosses, we'll see about that. And then Rain's Kiss, undispellable at the start of the carrier's turn. Carrier's active turns. So they changed it. In the patch note, it said like at the start of a turn, right? So any turn. Now it changes to at the start of the carrier's active turn. So it's not as strong. Receives healing equal to 30% of the healer's max HP. That is a massive amount of healing. I think Lian only heals for like 5%, right? Lian only heals for 10%. She heals for 30%. But the S2 attacks on enemies, damages goes to 40% of attack and 6% of her, or 7.5% of her max HP. If a target has hypothermia, inflicts freeze. Otherwise, inflicts 3 stacks of hypothermia on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is going to be massive for your entire team. And then ability 3 heals all allies. Healing is equals to 100% of her max HP. What the heck? Oh my god. Converts 50% of the excess healing into shield, lasting 2 turns. So she's basically just Lian. Just like a better version of Lian, right? Because Lian provides you with only 10% healing and also 70% shield, whereas this chick can give you 100% healing and 50% shield. 50% of the excess healing will turn into shield, right? So it's not wasted. And then grants range Ggez to all allies for 2 turns. And then passive at the end of each unit's active turn increases Maria's AP by 10% and triggers Lament's Blessing, which is heals all allies 3% of her max HP. So more healing. Inflicts 1 stack of hypothermia on all enemies on a 4 turn cooldown. So she's gonna be a hyper healer unit and also a controller as well, while also giving your entire team the chance to freeze the enemy Esper, right? So 100% you're going to be running her with Yukine. Her divinity is going to be increases healing provided even more healing by 30%. Alright. Capital ability is PvP 40%. Resonance R1 new effect for range Ggez. If the carrier has 100% HP, they deal 15% more final damage in the current turn. R2 is at the start of combat, all allies gain range Ggez for 2 turns. This one is going to be massive for PvP. And then increases the percentage of healing, excess healing converted to shields to 75%. And then R6, new effect to range Ggez. After triggering range Ggez healing effect 2 times, the carrier gains 1 extra turn. So in my previous video, I said you can gain like 4 turns on all of your team. That's not going to happen anymore because they did change the description for range Ggez. It is now at the start of the carrier's active turn, right? Rather than being at the start of a turn, so any unit's turn. So you're not gonna get like insane amount of turns. You can only get like you can only get 1 turn on one of your Esper whenever they take 2 turns, right? Alright, let's do a bit of testing with Pindar first. I want to see if the leftmost ally dies. Is the harmonic harmonic control gonna go to Unas, or is it just going to be wasted for the entirety of the match? Alright, let's see. When I cast his S3, he's gonna give Bairuli the harmonic control. Boom. And then now I'm gonna reset his S3. Alright, Bairuli dies. He's gonna get his S3. Is it gonna go to Unas, or is it just gonna be wasted? It got wasted. So you can only link him with the leftmost teammate at the start of combat. Once that teammate dies, it will not transfer over to the next leftmost teammate, which is going to be Unas in this case, right? So he's not going to be that OP in that sense, but it's still going to be very good because you can run for PvP. You can run Momo in the leader skill, which is going to be 40% or 50% if you have a level 70 in PvP. She's going to be super tanky if you do have Pindar at R6. So basically your Momo is only going to be taking 10% damage, which is insane, and she's going to have 30% more max HP. She's going to be doing more damage with her skills because her S1 does 2 hits, which means the second hit is going to do additional 50% extra true damage, right? So for the fighter one, this guy is mostly just built for Momo, for PvP. Other fighters don't really match that well with this guy because most of the time if you're running Moroyama, you're not going to be running Moroyama in the leader spot unless you have like a really weird team where the enemy does not run a speed lead. Then you can run Moroyama in the speed lead, right? But in teams like when you run Momo, you don't really need to run a speed lead because you don't really need to go first in a Momo team. Same goes for Suizai as well. The buff effect for this one, the fighter one, is not really going to be that useful for Suizai because once Suizai gets his Untamed Fury buff, he's not going to be spamming his S1, which it needs to be a single hit, and his S3 only does a single hit. So you're not going to be triggering the true damage portion of this buff right here. The effects of the R6 is definitely going to be useful for Suizai, right? The best one is probably just going to be Momo in PvP. And in PvE, I don't think it's going to be that good because the buff in PvE is not that good. True damage for PvE is not that good. You don't crit, you're not going to do a lot of damage. For the tank portion, also not that good. You're not going to... the enemy does not take too many turns for this effect to be useful in PvE. Support and controller is only 10 speed, so it's not that good as well. The ability cooldown minus 1 turn is pretty decent, but controller casting 1 extra time is not that good. And controller in PvE is not that good to begin with, right? But his S3 does give 1 extra turn, on a very low cooldown as well. If you do have the maximum cadence stacks, then his STD is going to be on a 2-turn cooldown, which means if you run him with Lu Sheng, he is a support. He will not have any cooldown on his STD. Every single turn he takes with the max cadence stacks, he's going to be spamming his STD. So in the Elif team, if you are running Elif, Lu Sheng, and Jingwei, then you might be able to swap out Jingwei for this guy. But the problem is Jingwei has damage on her STD. This is the deciding factor whether he's going to be better than Jingwei or not in this team. They pretty much fill the same role. The buff effect that he gets or he gives to your fighter ally is not that good to begin with. Whereas Yujing with her Divinate gives you 2 stacks of Accentuated, right? So it stacks up a little bit faster, but Yujing also has 4-turn cooldown on her S3. Whereas this guy, if you do have maximum cadence stacks, will have 0 turns on his S3. So it's a toss-up between who is going to be better in PvE, but I think Yujing is still going to be the main go-to for this trio right here. Alright, let's take a look at Maria now. You're going to be running her with Yukine, so that your entire team can inflict freeze and also gain the Snow Cloak buff. Alright, so when my Unas takes a turn, she's gonna proc her S3 passive, which is at the end of each unit's active turn. It doesn't matter if it's your ally or the enemy or her turn itself, I think. And then it increases Maria's AP by 10% and triggers Lament's Blessing, and also inflicts 1 stack of Hypothermia. I thought this was just the S3 upon the cast of the S3, but instead it's actually at the end of any turn. Like, check this out, right? When my Unas takes a turn, use the S3, she casts her passive, and everyone has this Hypothermia effect. I thought you needed to cast the S3 in order to get 1 stack of Hypothermia, but instead, it's every active turn that you or the enemy takes is gonna add 1 stack of Hypothermia. She is absolutely busted, so you don't even need to cast her S2 to begin with, right? Because you already, like, most of the time you're gonna have at least like 1 stack on the enemies whenever one ally or one enemy takes a turn. As long as they don't have like immunity buff, you should be fine. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Every single turn that you take, or every single turn that passes by, heals the entire team by 3% of her max HP. And she has a lot of max HP. I think I didn't show you the stats yet. Okay, so her S1 is going to AP swap my Yukine with this guy right here. I think it's this guy. Okay, so it's gonna AP swap with this guy. Boom. There we go. So basically Changji's R2 or R6, I'm not sure which one. She's a ridiculously OP controller, and even more OP if you do pair her up with Yukine, right? Like, the enemy is not getting a single turn. Look at this. Now Yukine is probably gonna be the best support in Rival Rune content, because you can now run her with any team. Before Maria's release, you can only run Yukine with like Sloan or Espers that can already inflict freeze to begin with. And you also needed Lian in the team, right? Lian is the only like support that can heal your team enough so that you don't die from your own damage that Yukine does with her blizzard damage. But now, every single turn that you take, or every single turn that passes by, you should have enough healing to sort of mitigate the damage that your own Yukine is going to do with her blizzard damage. So that's going to be massive. Look at this. I don't have any relics on my units, and the enemies are getting perma frozen. My speed on this account is absolutely garbage. I think I only have relics on 2 of my units, Sakura and Unas. That's about it. And the enemy is not moving a single time, and they are way faster than me as well. That's about it for the testing. I'm not going to do too much testing for now. Maria and Yukine is going to be very interesting. I think they're going to be the best team moving forward in PvP for a very long time. Go here. She has crazy HP. I think she has the highest HP in the game right now for Rival Rune content, 72,000. Man. She's also using the Panacea set, which is very good. You don't really need any other set on her. Grove set, also very good. Let me see if she is the highest HP or not. She is not. Okay, so I think she's the 3rd highest HP, because Amir also has higher HP than Petros. And then her base stats at level 70, very high HP, decent speed, and the rest does not matter. So yeah, that's about it. These 2 units are shaping to be more PvP units, but they are absolutely broken. I'm going to tell you right now. And when it comes to Pindar, if you want to use him in PvP, I think his R6 is going to be a must-have because the shared damage from 50% to 90% is just way too crazy. And the amount of damage that he takes is also going to be reduced to 50%, right? That's going to be massive. So yeah, that's about it, ciao.